know how to relax your face so that it's easier to smile. This is something listeners can do at home.
Okay.
Clench your buttocks really
There we
tightly,
go.
and then you just you don't smile, but clenching your buttocks takes all the concentration out of the muscles in your face. Hello and welcome to Double Exposure,
The podcast that brings you a new angle on the world and life through the lens of photography and photographers.
and you might even learn a photography tip or two along the way.
I'm Cambridge Jones.
And I'm Hugo Burnand.
Each week we're going to share stories about life and art, things we've learned from behind the camera, looking at iconic photographs and great photographers.
Should we do it again without reading our notes?
Okay.
I doubt I can do it.
Tipex memory.
I know, same. But let's
Okay.
go for it. And this week,
What are we talking about?
the smile. To smile or not to smile? That is the question.
I'm very upset about this week.
This week,
Yes.
I took 2 photographs on my telephone. One that made me smile and one that made me not smile.
Okay.
Which I thought was quite interesting.
Why did one make you smile?
I was cooking supper for my neighbour who just loves bangers and mash.
Okay.
And she came in and they were so good that we actually took a selfie of the pair of us by the stove with the bangers and mash and cabbage on the stove. So that made me smile. It was
Yeah.
such a happy moment.
Nice.
And the one that didn't make me smile.
Can I pause you there?
Yeah.
Because you're always so dismissive of selfies, and now you're glibly telling me that you take selfies in your private life. But carry on, please.
Well, we took it to send to her mother,
Okay.
who also loves sausages.
Yep.
And we got a message back saying, not fair.
Oh. What's the one that made you not smile?
It happens to all of us that drive or ride bicycles. I got a nail in my tyre and I got a flat tyre.
yeah.
And I had to take a photograph and send it and say, do I just pull it out or do I have to bring it into the repair shop?
Well, that's much closer to my week. I've had a terrible week in every respect, and maybe we could just take over the whole podcast with it. But so 2 of my examples are, one, long distance calls with Namibia with my daughter who thinks she's broken her camera. So I'm explaining to her, take a picture of a white wall and see if there's any damage that you can see by taking it against a white wall, and you can see whether the lens is damaged and stuff. So that can go into top tips.
That's amazing. I haven't done that for ages.
And she has indeed scratched her lens, and she can tell that. But the other one, I've spent quite a lot of this week photographing my wife's clothes for Vinted.
Did you get this from Vinted?
I did not. But I might be selling it later.
Right, now, the smile. Okay.
Yes, okay.
So you're happy that you're going to have more wardrobe space now. So
Yeah.
that photograph made you smile.
Right.
And the other one didn't. But smiling and portrait photography in general, it's a big, big topic.
Well, it turns out it is. And when you suggested doing it, honestly, my heart sank. And I thought, well, I've got three minutes of stuff, so you're going to have to fill 43 yourself. But the more I look into it, the more interesting this subject is. And I also think, and we'll get to this, that it brings up something that you and I have touched on before. Okay, so I found this quote, which I was going to weaponize for you and use against you. Mark Twain says in a letter to the Sacramento Daily Union, "A photograph is a most important document, and there is nothing more damning to go down to posterity than a silly, foolish smile caught and fixed forever."
And I don't disagree with him.
And I'm kind of with him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with him.
Okay.
But I have a quote, which actually I don't know who it's from, but it's much more up my street. A smile is a curve that sets everything straight.
That's good.
It is
That
good,
is
isn't
good.
it?
If you think about photography coming out of painting, the tradition of painting or portraiture, you couldn't hold a smile for a painter. You just couldn't, because they...
No.
And we'll come to that because... So firstly, there's a tradition where you don't smile in portraits. We accept that. Secondly, you've got the technological issue that when cameras are first invented, you actually got to hold that whatever pose quite a long time.
But I can hear all our listeners going, has Cambridge never heard of the Mona Lisa?
Well, yeah, but is that a smile?
Yes. It's a wry smile.
What is a wry smile?
Well, it's funny you should ask. Because when I was an assistant to Julian Calder, we did a lot of corporate portraiture.
Yeah.
And he'd be looking at the chairman or CEO or whatever, who obviously had to give a presence, be it apologetic to the shareholders or, I'm the leader, don't you dare question me. And Julian would always say, how about a smile? Just a wry smile. And I have stolen that phrase from Julian throughout my career. And I've often said to people, come on,
give me a wry smile.
Not actually knowing what it is. So for today's podcast, I actually looked it up. A wry smile is an expression of amusement mixed with disappointment or annoyance, often used to show you find a bad situation, ironic.
But can we just pause for a minute, listeners? This is a man who seems to have built his career on asking people to do something he doesn't even know what he's asking them to do. But okay, so now we know what it is.
I think the reason why it worked is because obviously I didn't have a clue either. They say, I better just smile.
Can you do one for me now? A wry smile?
No, because then we get this is the history of smiling.
Okay.
And we've done paintings and we've done the Victorian era, and we've mentioned Mona Lisa. The smile actually became popular, or the birth of the smile in photography was in the 1950s.
Yes.
With commercial cameras and advertising. And that's really when the smile... Now, it has shot into a whole new realm.
But it's even more interesting than that, because in my research I was reading about, it's exactly right in the period, and you're right that cameras get quicker, but it's Hollywood that really propels this forward, because people used to leave calling cards as showgirls and actors, and they on those calling cards they would have photographs of themselves, and this coincides a little bit with the advances of dentistry as well, because you wouldn't necessarily have wanted to show your teeth. So these calling cards sort of become popular and the adverts as well, as you say, and people start to see people with smiles, but they haven't really seen that before. I will dig out a quote in a second, but about hiding, your lips are designed to hide your teeth.
Which I totally disagree with.
Okay.
Because I call that letterbox mouth. That's when if someone does a tight lip smile, they're hiding something, and I don't want that in my portraits. If they have their mouth too wide open, it looks like a letterbox, and you could show So you need lips parted, but not necessarily teeth parted. But this gets on to the whole thing of a smile, and we're sort of making it forced already, and that's the problem with smile. Is a forced smile is more damaging than no smile.
Well, so I did an interesting thing this morning, knowing we were going to talk about this. I went through my own website at, I think, 40-something portraits the ones I've chosen to display to the world, as it were.
Yeah.
So 40 pictures, and they're in front of you here.
Yeah.
Guess how many of those 40 have people smiling?
I'd just like to say he's shown me a picture of Jason from Take That, where all we can see is basically Jason's bottom. So I don't know there's much of a smile there. But a Duchenne smile involves the eyes, the mouth, and the cheeks. So maybe it's Jason's cheeks that are doing the smiling.
Right. Now you've introduced the Duchenne smile, we're going to have to pause and explain this before we return to this question that I'm teasing you with. The Duchenne smile is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's this argument that how many muscles does it take to...
It's healthier to smile than to frown, because it takes 64 muscles to frown and it takes 26 to smile.
But the Duchenne smile is the one where your muscles engage around your eyes, the kind of crow feet around the edge of your eye.
Yes, crow feet are a good thing.
Yes, and it's that signals to a person looking that it's a genuine smile. It's not the mouth, it's the eyes.
So when you smile, you have to engage the cheeks and the eyes along with the mouth.
And you can't fake it, or very few people can.
Which is why we come up with these crazy things on what to say to make people... And, cheese sounds so corny, but actually it engages the mouth, but not the cheeks and the eyes.
So this is where I wanted to challenge you a little cheekily.
Yeah.
Because you remember the debate about whether you should use the word shit, which is what you use, and I get people to say sex. And I would argue that the shit is a mechanical movement of the mouth, but you're not engaging the Duchenne smile because they're not really laughing. But I know what you're going to say now.
Yeah, you hadn't thought that one through, had you? You're laughing and we haven't even said the word.
Well, go on then.
Because it's the thought of the word
that makes them really smile.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But it's the same process when I get them to say sex that's actually making them really smile because they're laughing. But all right, we'll call that a draw.
Do you know how to relax your face so that it's easier to smile?
I don't, but I can assure you that if it's coming from you, it'll be very rude. Go
Okay,
on.
well, this is something listeners can do at home.
Okay.
Clench your buttocks really
There we
tightly, and then you just you don't smile, but clenching your buttocks takes all the concentration out of the muscles in your face. Okay,
I'm going to try it.
and
Am I looking relaxed?
no, because I think you've over clenched.
Okay.
The other thing is if you make a noise like a horse. You know how I love horses.
Yeah.
And what you're going to try and do is blow air out through your lips, which basically gets rid of all the tension. So you. Yeah, now you're relaxed.
Maya Angelou
Yes.
said, and I love this, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's relevant here because a smile does engender an emotional response, which is something you love to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways one has to look at what the purpose of the photograph is.
Oh, totally. When it's appropriate or when it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
Smile is a universal language, and it is a facial facial expression that can be recognised from 300 feet. And I know there are some cultures where if you grimace, it's all the wrong thing, but generally, smiles have no language barriers, and they are contagious. It is a bit like a yawn. When you smile at someone, it makes you smile back, and the smile goes on around the world. Funnily enough, I mean, they've done medical research, and a smile is such a valuable, healthy tool.
But I know I agree with that, and I'm looking for a quote because your point about culture is relevant because in some cultures they think about it's a bit like that Mark Twain quote. They think about somebody smiling as a bit of a fool, a bit of an idiot. Why you're sort of betraying Russians, I think, and East Europeans generally don't regard smiles in the way we do. So I think we have to accept that our culture says smile. Kubra Kreis, who's a psychologist at the Polish Academy of Sciences on culture. In some countries, smiling might not be a sign of warmth or even respect. It's evidence that you're a fool and a tricky fool.
Generally, from my point of view, I like smiles, and I think they're healthy, and I think they invite you as a viewer of a photograph to come into the portrait that you're looking at, because eyes are the windows of the soul or the heart. And when you give a genuine smile, you are smiling with your eyes.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, I'm thumbs up for smiles.
And I'm thumbs halfway.
Okay.
Which is back to this website. So out of the 40 pictures, just quickly, just give me a rough number. I don't want you to look through them. How many are smiling? Do you guess? In my 40 portraits I show to the world.
Well, I'd call that a smile. That's a wry smile.
I was going to call that half a smile.
That's a wry smile.
That's the King Charles half smiling for me because I'm not Hugo Burnand.
There's a lot of very definitely not smiling pictures. I'm going to call that a smile.
Yeah, I thought you'd
I'm going
try
to call
that.
that a smile.
Yeah, I'd call that.
By the way, when I say this, there are at least 10 non-smiling. So every time I've said that's a smile, think of 10
The answer to my
people.
question is about 3 out of 40, really. Now, so that's where I came into this, and I'm thinking, but then I thought about it a bit longer, and I thought, but in my private work, as it were, sort of family and friends, then I'm absolutely going for a smile. And that made me wonder, why is that?
That's a really interesting thing. Professionally, you don't like your subjects to smile generally, but you almost insist that your family does smile for the family pictures.
Yes. I think
conflict?
No, I think it's about formality versus informality. So if I'm employed to take even an album cover or what you often call a document of history, or what do you call historical document, then I feel that the person, a bit like an old-fashioned painting, is needing to portray some sense of esteem, power, maybe importance. Whereas, so if you turn that formality off, those same people, if I were photographing them as friends on holiday, I would photograph with a smile. In the way that I photograph my family, I want the smile. Unless they happen to be looking very demure and moody under a shade, then fine. But mostly I will go for a smile with friends and family. Yeah. So I think it's about the purpose of the photograph and the sense of formality is what it's about.
But you don't deny that a winning smile is a winning smile.
No, I don't. Like you always say, it's about emotion. And the quickest way to transmit emotion, I think, and connect with another human being in our culture is the smile. Fight. All right. Beauty is power. A smile is its sword.
Yeah, I like that.
John
I like
Ray. That is quite nice.
Yeah.
I'm arguing against myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you know, some people aren't smilers. Some people are pouters.
Yeah, and some people's faces aren't looking their best when they smile.
Yeah, and another top tip.
Yeah.
If you're a pouter, not a smiler, there are 2 words that you can say silently to the camera.
Right.
Which will... Okay, so just look at the camera and say prune.
Prune.
Yeah, that's a beautiful pout. Now say yoga.
Is the pout at the end of saying it?
Well, just try and say prune without pouting.
But is it? Do I end up in a pout? Prune.
No, you don't. I have to click the shutter as the photographer as you go.
As you go prune. Okay.
So I will do it again.
Prune.
Oh, click.
Very good. Yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's even making you smile. So Beckham, Victoria Beckham, or Her Majesty the Queen, the late Queen.
Start with the Queen, please.
Okay. So now the Queen, for me, had a absolutely wonderful smile, and that quote we had about a smile is a curved line that sets the world straight.
Lovely.
And she had such a beautiful smile, but the press did have a tendency to publish a very straight-mouthed expression. I found when I photographed the Queen, it was more difficult to find the straight-mouthed smile in my contact sheets than this completely engaging smile. It just was natural. I mean, she had it all her life.
Yeah.
But these were 2 pictures I wanted to show you, actually at a polo match for Cartier. And this smile is so genuine. And it is the eyes and the cheeks and the smile and everything. And again, here, it's just like a cheeky, lovely, natural smile.
I totally get this, because when I photographed her for Christchurch, Oxford, for something, and it was a formal event, and I was invited to cover it, I saw it and I couldn't get it. But
What, the smile?
Yeah, because she felt that the photograph that she wanted to give me wasn't the smiling one, because it was a formal occasion.
Yeah.
But actually, during the interaction, you could see this lovely. So I totally get it.
Yeah, really.
And the Victoria Beckham one.
Right, now the reason why I wanted to get into the picture, because you said something
about
I'm
smiling on the inside. Yes.
And we can talk a lot about Victoria on many levels, but I did this portrait session with her.
Yeah.
And actually, it wasn't so much about the smile, this particular portrait, but I believe that in this picture, you can see her smiling. And she said, I'm smiling on the inside. I think I only stopped smiling when I got into fashion. Fashion stole my smile.
Because she felt it was not what they wanted.
Yeah, I think.
Does she mean because she was modelling it, or because she was when she starts making fashion herself?
Yeah.
She means modelling it.
I can't be challenged on her quote.
Okay.
But I did like the thing, fashion stole my smile, and I am smiling on the inside.
Yeah. Just returning quickly to that point about my family, when I photograph my family, that I want the smile, I want the happy picture and the emotion. And I'm just reminded of this, Susan, I think this merits a little investigation. Susan Sontag, who is one of the great philosophers when it comes to photography, says, the camera makes everyone a tourist in other people's reality, and eventually in one's own. And I thought about that for a minute. I thought, what's she talking about? And then I thought, well, if I open a book, of which there's many of my family, they're sort of all happy. And those are the moments I've kept. But of course, I don't keep any of the moments where they're sad or depressed or angry. And so you're sort of, it is like a tourist. I'm revisiting my history through my photographs. But it's very selective. And
but that's human nature, because actually the human memory tends to delete the unhappy things, unless they're really traumatic.
Yeah.
And we remember the happy times. It's so important that the smile is appropriate to the portrait or the photograph or the moment.
Yes.
And I'd like to show you this photograph here. which I took when Prince William married Catherine.
Yes,
It's a
lovely.
historical document. It shows their wedding in the throne room at Buckingham Palace. But they are smiling, appropriately for the happy event.
I agree. And I have a question, and I don't know whether you'll know the answer. Because in a sense, you've tricked me here, because you've taken a formal portrait and they're smiling. So I point to you, I get that. But do we know whether historically, if you go back, and of course photography doesn't exist way back, but if you go to the earliest possible wedding photographs, are they smiling in them?
No.
Is that right? And is that...
Well, I've looked at quite a lot of archives, but generally not until we get to the 1950s.
50s and after that.
Yeah.
So it does obey our rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to prove it wasn't a one-off, there is
Hello Magazine.
Hello Magazine, and our king when he got married to Camilla Parker Bowles, and those smiles are so genuine.
Yeah.
Look at it's the cheeks, the eyes, and the mouth. It is, and it's totally appropriate to be smiling there.
Properly Duchenne.
Yeah.
Duchenne people. But Richard Avedon, who we both love and admire, said a photographic portrait is a picture of someone who knows he's being photographed. Now, I think that's really insightful, because in a sense he's saying, if you pick up the camera, I can't get a natural photo of you because I've now picked up a camera, so we're in trouble. But of course, everything you and I are describing is in how do you trick people back into being natural? All the little tricks we're saying. So you immediately pick up the camera, all naturalness is gone. Now you've got to find a way back, and you can do that through asking them to say silly things or clench their buttocks or whatever it is. But essentially, we're tricking people into being authentic.
But to a degree, with portrait photography, you want to command a certain amount of respect from the sitter to you as the artist and the camera. And so it's not always a bad thing to have this relationship. And if I'm going to take a photograph of those people over there, if I pick up my iPhone and go like that, that's going to elicit one sort of portrait. If I get out a 35mm camera, that's going to give a different reaction. And if I get out a lovely old antique bellows with large format slide and hoods, that's going to give a completely different portrait. Not because of the camera. Well, yes, because of the camera, but also because of the respect from the sitter towards the camera.
No, I agree with that.
So while Richard Avedon is correct, it's not a bad thing.
No, and it actually, there's another quote, isn't there? When you look at a portrait, you're not looking at the photographer's photograph of them, you're looking at their reaction to the photographer, and it's a similar thought.
Yeah, but it should be a collaboration. Can I show you a picture of two stunning smiles?
Yes.
Okay, this is Theo Fennell and his wonderful wife, Louise.
Lovely.
And they are fun, they're colourful, they're just great people. And I had to do a shoot, I think it was for Hello Magazine.
It looks like Hello's typeface.
Yeah. And I have a thing about Photoshop, and I like pictures to be as natural. real as well. There's quite a lot of Photoshop in this picture.
Oh, really? Where is it?
Well, they know how to throw a party or two. And
so have you edited out the other 53 people?
No. They hadn't had a party the night before we took this photograph, but there was evidence of parties in the past on the carpet, a few wine stains, and maybe a little cigarette had burnt a hole.
Wow, okay.
So I've basically photoshopped the carpet to death to make it look like a new one.
Amazing. And presumably, do you ask permission for that?
Well, we explain what we're doing, but what Louise loved was people would say, "You look absolutely wonderful," and there was a hint of and she'd always say, "Yeah, there was masses of Photoshop. We had to clean the carpet." But I was talking about having it as an appropriate place. I'm going to show you two photographs, which include Samburu warriors in Kenya.
Right.
Okay. The first photograph is of Tara and Jessica Getty in South Africa.
Okay.
This was for an article in Tatler magazine, And it was all about the promotion of conservation. And Tara and Jessica have been incredible in conservation, both on the land and in the sea. Anyway, this was to do with on the land in Africa. And they are in a jeep surrounded by local young warriors, which could look quite frightening or threatening. Yeah. But actually, everyone is beaming with a wonderful smile. It's a great.
Do you know what
picture.
you did or said to get them to smile like that?
I know exactly what I was doing. I was standing on the bonnet and nearly falling off, and it was like, go back, go back, go back. It's like making me drop off into the pool. But it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
But then this picture of Samburu Askari, who are like sort of guards around the property or whatever.
Right.
I've always had this thing about threes. I love pictures of
beautiful.
1, 2, 3 people. A smile would be very inappropriate in that photo. It would kill that photograph.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's something almost as though they want to be slightly threatening.
Yes.
Almost.
Yes.
Because that's what their job is.
Yeah.
Protecting people. Yeah. That's beautiful. So have you convinced me that I need to like smiles more? Because I don't in my work. I don't. I'm trying to think.
It's got to be appropriate. And actually the wry smile comes in and works. Now listen, the last photograph I'm going to show you is, again, is it appropriate or not? I had to do a photograph for an article. It's entitled Grave Matters, and it's to do with funerals.
Wow.
And my great friend Sophie Carruth's mother was diagnosed with cancer and actually
Is this
survived.
her?
Yeah, and that's the mother. And survived against all the odds. But while she wasn't so well, they did discuss funerals. And we did this whole article on funerals and actually anyway, she survived, and we took this photograph of Sophie and her mother peering over the edge of a coffin, smiling their heads off. And it is a fun
which
picture.
is such an unexpected place to see smiles, isn't it? In a picture of a coffin.
Exactly. So appropriate. You think outside the box sometimes.
So that's great. So what I'm loving is that I'm so instinctive in the way I approach my work that I don't think I know how I work. And then you say, let's talk about smiles. And I think, really? That's like, I haven't got anything to say. And then we kind of dig into it and we talk. And I just think, oh God, this is so much more interesting than I thought. But I still don't know what I think about them. And I want you to tell me what I should be thinking about smiles. Because I don't think everything you said is interesting.
Okay, well, my main thing I've already mentioned is eyes are the windows to the soul.
Yes, that's good.
And a genuine smile involves the eyes. And in my portraits, I want people to feel engaged with who they're looking at. So a smile is important.
Okay, I think we've met at that point because that is exactly right. They don't need to have a big cheesy grin, but they need to be alive and smiling in the eyes. And have a connection with the person. Yeah.
Top tips.
So when you pick up your camera and you point it at somebody,
yes,
they are by definition looking, in our case, looking at me at 1.5 feet, say. Yeah. That's the distance you're focusing on. If I say to you while I'm holding a camera here, can you see your reflection in the lens?
Yeah.
Now, it is true that sometimes that reflection will be upside down, but hold that for a second. If you look at your own reflection, and you're suddenly not looking 1.5 feet, you're looking 3 foot because you're looking there and back again to see your foot.
Clever.
And what happens is the self-consciousness that you sometimes see in photos because somebody's looking at a camera almost evaporates. Not always, because sometimes they look a bit like, I don't know what I'm meant to be looking at. But if you get it right, you get an incredibly natural and possibly smiling photo because they don't look like they're looking at the camera. Yeah, and it's a lovely trick.
Very good.
The only time it goes wrong is when they go, "I'm upside down." What about listener's question? Let's do a listener's question.
Yes.
What have we got?
Have you got the question?
How important is the background in your photographs? And I really like this question because I thought. So presumably they mean of people, because if it's of a landscape, that is the background. But so let's say, the reason I liked it is because two things. One is when we talked about Bailey and he talked about John French, essentially he's stripping out all of the background. That's his kind of token thing. Yeah. But when I approach a portrait, if you said to me, will you do my portrait today? The first thing I've got to think about is where are we doing it? What's the context? What am I putting you against? And that essentially is all background. It's like, is there a pattern there? Where's the light?
Well, I think, taking the sort of artistic lessons, you want a bit of foreground, you want a bit of middle ground, and you want a bit of background.
Yeah.
To position the picture, and it is incredibly important. And I used to do these portraits for House and Garden magazine for 10 years. Every month I would photograph a designer and a specialist, and you had to, in this portrait, tell the story of who this person was. My example always was, if you're photographing a blacksmith, he needs to be with an anvil or a furnace, otherwise you don't know who he is. If he's just got a mug of tea, he could be a farmer.
Well, you talk...
and so the background and the foreground are really important in telling that story. But if you're going for the David Bailey look, we call it a background, that white bit of paper, but
it's really nothing.
It is nothing because you are really focusing. But it's still art comes into it because it's the way the person is framed within the frame of the negative.
But I think both the Bailey taking away all the background and the stuff you and I are describing about what the background should be, both indicate the same thing, which is the background is absolutely critical.
And what was the question?
How important is the background in photograph?
Yeah, incredibly important, even if it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tip is either you see a background that you, for some reason, you think just works perfectly, or you deliberately create something that's. But ultimately your subject is the most important thing, but it ain't going to work if you haven't thought through what's behind them.
I mean, the background might be a badly positioned telegraph pole coming out the top of their head.
Yeah.
That's if they're outside. It might be an extraordinary plant on a mantelpiece or a standard lamp on a stand. You don't want those interrupting with your subject, but you do want to keep telling the story of where the person is.
And I really liked your point about the foreground as well, the other objects you bring in. And you made me think about sort of early Gainsborough paintings and stuff. You know, do you know, I can't remember the name of it, but that painting of a kind of young gentleman against a tree with his stick and his dog. He's got, his background is the English countryside, but he's got all these cues that are around him to say what a gentleman is. And I think the same, you know, if you're photographing Jack White of the White Stripes or whatever, you kind of need a guitar in there to help tell that story, I think.
As we say goodbye,
yes,
I would just like the viewers to go away thinking of a few celebrity smiles.
Oh, good.
Just because it's fun.
Yeah. Who gives us a good celebrity smile?
George Clooney.
Yep.
Harry Styles.
Yes.
Amelia Clark.
Yes.
Julia Roberts.
Yes.
That's a smile and a half. And Barack Obama.
Yes.
As a politician.
Unusual.
And
can you think of another politician that has that trademark smile?
No, but everyone knows the Cheshire Cat smile. But there are some really scary smiles to go away and think about as well. And don't copy these at home. Okay. Jack Nicholson in The Shining and the Joker in Batman.
I'm also interested in, because when you reel off that list, you think some people just naturally smile, don't they? I don't feel any of those people are using any of our tricks. They just naturally they've got a face that smiles,
and you've got a voice that smiles.
Well, there you go. Which is lucky because my face doesn't. So there we go.
Just clench your buttocks a bit more. Right, I think we ought to wrap this up because I think we could be talking.
I think you've done very well to keep me going for that long. Well done, Hugo. I thought this was a 3-minute episode, but it turns out not. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Do follow us on Instagram to see all the photographs we've been talking about, or watch us on YouTube where we can show you the photographs. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and thanks, as always, for listening.
Happy smiling.
Good to see you, Hugo.